Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. We are here to help you understand the unique cultural needs of Gen Z and Generation Alpha. I'm your host, Chuck Peters, and I'm so glad you're here today. This is the Etch Next Gen Ministry Podcast. We hear a lot about the negative impacts of technology and cell phones and smartphones in particular, social media, on the mental health and emotional health of the next generation. But what about on their spiritual health? Today, I'm going to have a conversation with my friends Jesse and Sarah Siegand from Parents Who Fight about how we as parents and as ministry leaders can address this issue of the negative impacts of technology on our kids. Join me as we talk with Jesse and Sarah about the tech reset that we may need to have as we minister to the next generation. Well, listeners, we have a really special conversation today. We're here with friends Jesse and Sarah Siegand, who are Parents Who Fight. We're going to talk about what that means. But first, I want to let you all know that we are recording during our Etch conference, our Next Gen conference here in Nashville, which is the inspiration for the name of this podcast. So as a listener of the podcast, I want to personally invite you to come to the event where you can meet friends like Jesse and Sarah in person and interact with them so that you can have not just a one-way listening engagement experience, but where you can have an actual dialogue and ask questions and interact, because there is so much more to the topic we're going to cover today than we can possibly get in the time we have for one episode of a podcast. Totally. So Sarah and Jesse, welcome. I'm glad to have you today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us, Chuck.
So first of all, Jesse, you and I we've been friends on social media for a while. I don't know if you're aware of me on social media, but I'm aware of you. And so one of the things that I noticed right away is that your middle name is James.
Yes, sir.
Right? So it's Jesse James.
Yes,
Siegand. And
right.
I honestly didn't know if you went by Jesse or if you went by Jesse James, which would have been really gangster.
He's very proud of the James.
I do throw it in
saying.
as needed, yes. And it's a great conversation piece.
So do you play it like when you're hanging out with bikers and like...
Well, my dad, my biological father was a Vietnam vet, and he gave me that name, probably some outlaw thing. And after Vietnam, he kind of became like a biker, so that I was around bikers.
So I kind of like that you have...
I'm familiar.
We also talk, right, and one of the things that we're going to be discussing today as we talk about the next gen tech reset, the challenges that we face as ministry leaders with kids who are immersed and inundated with all the messages and all the content that comes through technology. That is a real problem for us. But one of the things that's a theme through this, and it's what we're leading with here as we talk about our theme at Etch this year, is velocity. Mm-hmm. We're talking about doing ministry at the speed of culture.
Yeah.
So in that, as I got to unpack this last night for the group here, there's a difference between speed and velocity.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Speed is about how fast we're going. Velocity includes speed and direction. And the direction that we move as the church, the direction we're called to move, is countercultural.
Yep.
And I know that that's a term that's important to the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the session, and we loved the whole theme and how you presented it. That was one of the things I really wanted to point out, is the things we're talking about doing and recommending to next-gen leaders is very countercultural. I love how you said our velocity is countercultural. As the church,
Yeah.
Right.
As the church, we have velocity. The world has speed.
That's
we
right.
have velocity. So that was so great, so helpful.
So let's back up a couple steps here and tell us about our listeners who are out there, who are preschool kids, middle school, high school, next-gen leaders. Set up for them a little bit about Parents Who Fight, and where did this come from? How long has it been a thing, and what got you started?
You want to do that? Or
Yeah,
me?
I'll start with,
Jesse, you can start, and then we'll let Sarah fix things that you missed.
Yes, exactly.
Catch on quick.
That's why I said I'll start. I would normally prefer my wife, but yes, to go first. But yeah, I'll just start with how we started, and she can talk a little bit about where we're at now with where it's gotten us. So our boys were in public school here in Tennessee, and by this time, first and third grade, and they started coming home with some information, stories that students had told them, or things they were saying things to her, especially she's picking them up from school, that a kid told them that showed us that, gosh, we know how to protect. We're vigilant about protecting our own home, and we're involved and engaged in our church. But what can we do to help this community? Because obviously, these kids that had talked to them on the playground or wherever had said some things that it was obvious that they had been either exposed to very harmful content, pornography, whatever, online, or from some other influence in their sphere at home. So that alarmed us. And through that and her going to a conference that was very expressive about anti-pornography and trafficking, human trafficking, all that stuff, it kind of sparked her. She came home from that conference with just supercharged and said, we got to do something about this. And so as we prayed and started, we initiated to our principal, our elementary school principal, thankfully, was a believer, and we said, hey, can we come have a parent meeting after school to talk to parents about the dangers of pornography? It was very specific to pornography.
And this was in an elementary level.
Elementary school.
Which was not common back in 2014.
Yeah.
And he said, literally, he was like, yes, you should do that, because based on what a family and a kid brought into my office on an iPad, that previous week, he's like, yes, do this. And so he opened a lot of doors for us to get started. There was literally 13 parents there, a couple of administrators and teachers from other schools too, and it just spread from there. So then, it was initially just, we started with let's help schools and our community here, and let's help parents, and let's be a sounding board for the great other organizations that were already out there, organizations like Fight the New Drug and just different helpful organizations. And so then but we've progressed so much, and as tech and the infiltration of how addictive technology
and
has
I think as our boys aged. So we have college students.
Yes.
So we have
it's been 10 years,
10
a full
years.
10, so happy anniversary.
Thank
that
you.
We just missed, I guess, right?
Yes, in January.
Great.
So we followed the educational pathway of our boys. So then we're tackling, okay, now we've got to address the middle school problems. Now we've got the high school problems.
Yes.
And so at the beginning, it was a lot of helping parents understand. Our lane was really here's the technological understanding you need to be able to get in front of this, and conversations. But then over the years, what we realized, because we were in a lot of schools, but we had an amazing experience at our church where our church was really doing collective action.
Yes.
And people were keeping their kids off of phones and social media.
Before we even knew what to call it.
Yeah,
really,
we had never heard of that. We were doing it.
Community to us.
And so eventually, especially over the last 3 years, we're like, I don't think you can turn the ship around without community. Yeah. And without a community that is talking about biblical truth, it's going to be so shallow and not lasting. I mean, parents inside a school know each other for a few years. Yeah. Parents inside a church know one another for generations. Yeah. So we felt a strong call to go to the church and to not just equip parents in the church. That's good.
Yes.
We're going to do that. We have to do that. But ministry leaders are carrying keys for families. They are shepherds. And we realized that a lot of ministry leaders didn't have an opinion organizationally or a conviction organizationally about technology. It was a little bit like, that's our personal preference, and it's making things complicated. And so we just felt like, well, I think as leaders we can do something. So we partnered with a couple of pastors in our church who had that organizational mindset to roll out resources that we felt like would be helpful for ministry leaders, not just to tell them why, but here's how. We can help you. We've seen some of the ways that it can be done, and we want to support you.
We need a conviction and a strategy.
Yes.
Right? Because unfortunately, I think a lot of us sort of leave it where you said, Sarah, where it's like, well, that's kind of a personal choice. Each family does what they're going to do.
Right.
And we're just not going to get involved as the church. Right. Because we might be perceived as being legalistic or closed-minded or who knows what, right?
Yeah.
But I like words in the way that words play together. So even the name of your organization, Parents Who Fight, right? On the one hand, you first go to, is this a marriage counseling,
Right, divorce care.
reconciliations?
We realize that.
That word fight, I think, is really important, and it's really appropriate for this because we need parents who actually will take a stand and will fight against what's happening in the culture.
And we wanted it to be provoking.
Yeah.
Are you going to fight, or are you going to sit back and let all of this stuff sweep your kid away?
Well, and when we started, I think a lot of parents didn't realize they were in a fight.
Right.
I think
For sure.
we've been doing the groundwork for now.
Yes.
Because now most people are what some people say read in. They've read the books, they've heard the stories, they've had the bombs go off in their backyard, their own backyard,
Right.
where it's blown up their family.
Yeah.
And so,
We don't have to convince people there's a problem anymore.
yeah,
That's right.
what
We
I'm
want to
saying.
convince them there are solutions.
Yes. But some of those solutions, although they're relatively simple, I would say, they're not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think now people realize we're in a fight. We're in a fight. So that was the point. Is that, they understand our name a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we are considering how we grow this out too. It's like that was our first name. That's what made sense from the Lord at the time. And now we're progressing with it. We're staying with it. So
you're saying you might need to expand your name,
Right.
Because,
Because we're not parenting anymore.
Jesse to Jesse James.
yeah,
You need to go
Exactly.
outlaw with this. So,
Exactly.
and one of the ways, I'm not sure this is where you're heading, but I'm going to take it there.
That's fine.
One
That's
of the
fine.
ways is we as church leaders need to get more involved in
Yes.
this fight.
Yes.
So we want parents to fight for their kids, for their
Yes.
families, and take that stand and be courageous and do hard things that may be different than what other families are doing. But we need ministry leaders, we
Yes.
need next gen leaders to take a stand within their ministries, within our service times, our youth meetings, the places that we gather, the influence we have as we coach and lead parents.
Right.
We need to, as ministry leaders, to take a strong stand on this
Yes.
and to have a strategy to offer parents.
Yes.
Part of that is connecting them with folks like you,
Yes.
friends like you. That's something that we like to do here at Etch, is make our friends and attendees in ministry aware of key topics that they need to know about and connect them with wise people who have strategy to help. And so that's why I'm so excited to talk with you today. So you do have a new book.
Yes.
The Next Gen Tech Reset.
Yes.
And so fantastic read,
Thank you.
really practical stuff to help ministry leaders. So ministry leaders, you need to see this book. It's not a Lifeway title.
No.
So
No.
it's, but you can find it where?
On our website, Parents Who Fight, or on Amazon.
on Amazon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we
As
should
everything
shout
is
out
on
our
Amazon.
the
Yeah,
co-authors here.
when we conceived this, I'm not an author on this, but we said we felt really compelled to invite a couple of our pastors.
Yeah.
So it's one of our very focused teaching pastors, Joel Everest, who you guys are very
And those of
familiar
you
with.
who
and friends.
use Explore the Bible
Yes.
Kids
Yes.
know Joel. He does Explore the Bible on Location. Joel is an amazing friend of ours. So I've known Joel for years and years.
Yeah.
He's just such a compelling communicator.
Yes.
And his
Absolutely.
And most
passion
people know
for the
him
Lord and
as-
the Word and the students comes through.
Yes, because people think he's really silly, and of course he is.
But he's really deep.
He's a
He's
word
very
man.
deep.
He's a word man.
is.
So
And
that's,
so this book, one of the great things about it is that every chapter is broken out into 3, and each author takes a section.
Great.
So Joel provides the underpinning for the biblical foundation in every chapter.
Yeah, he comes from the perspective of the Word.
Yes.
So the theology behind what we're saying. Grant Ebright, our youth pastor, comes from the field. His perspective is
On the front
from the field
lines.
as a youth
Yeah.
pastor. And Sarah,
And also was in the field of the tech industry
he
for
worked
many,
in
many
tech.
years.
He worked in tech, and even while he was part-time youth pastor, and a lot of youth ministers can relate to the part-time thing of working a job and bivocational. He's working selling these devices to parents that he sees destroying kids' lives in his youth ministry. He's having to heal kids from in his youth ministry. So from the field is what his perspective is, and then from the research is Sarah's perspective in the book. And so it ties together this cohesive, full. It's like a full plate of content for you to absorb, and it is very thin. It's very accessible.
It's a quick read.
Very quick read.
We wanted it to be 2 or 3 hours max.
It's very
a plane
punchy.
flight.
It's very punchy, and there's 5 main things that are the main topics, the main principles that it helps you with. As next gen leaders, you only have authority to do certain things.
Yeah.
You're not the senior pastor, but we want senior pastors to get a hold of this for sure, and young adult leaders, and because they need that permission to proceed with making the potential changes. So it's these 5 main things. And also in the book, there's QR codes for a resource, a toolkit that can be live.
Yeah, the toolkit
can be live and ongoing as technology changes.
Yeah, because we can't rewrite the book every year, but technology is going to evolve.
No, I love. When you get to the back of the book, the toolkit with the QR code is there. Such a practical, step-by-step way that you can respond. So I want to hit the subtitle of the book. I know, Sarah, you got it down, but I'm going to read it, right? So, because in my mind, this is the direction, right? So we've said we need to be parents who fight. We need to be ministry leaders who are well informed and have a stance and take action this way. Your subtitle is Leading Radically Low-Tech, High-Impact Student Ministry in the Age of Algorithms and Addiction. And so, although the word student ministry is in there, listeners, I would say, having read this book, it really applies very well in the children's ministry space also.
And we do have bonus content in the digital toolkit that will help you put these principles into kids' ministry.
And we know, we've all seen that the struggles and challenges of technology continue to push younger and younger and younger. So what was maybe truly a student ministry issue 10 years ago is now a children's ministry issue as well.
Well, the average age of a kid that gets a smartphone in the country is 10 years old.
So that's
we know as soon as a kid gets a smartphone, they're exposed to all kinds of things that we can't control.
And unfortunately, kids at our camps and whatnot are confessing these things that their phone brought into their lives. And when you ask them how old they were when that started, the age that they declare is almost always an age that means they were in kids ministry.
That's younger than you would expect.
When that started. So we do have to equip kids ministry leaders to know how to fight. And another great thing we have in our toolkit is an entire resource only for kids ministry leaders about the issue of pornography. And so that's something that's really going to give you additional resources. It's going to give you scripts and ways to communicate with parents that, hey, if
Surveys,
that happens in your family, like, we're safe to talk to. We're not going to judge you. We understand it's very common. I think that's a really important thing that kids ministry leaders need to know.
So we as ministry leaders need to be well informed.
Yes.
We need to take a strong stance, and that needs to be a value that we hold, but that has to come through in how we operate.
Right.
And so the book is really practical in that sense. And so, Jesse, you mentioned those five areas that make up 5 chapters in the book. Let's go through each of those and spend just a couple minutes unpacking each one.
Okay.
So the first recommendation, once we have the position, is that we as leaders, that we model this well.
Yes.
So let's talk about the importance of modeling.
Modeling is simply put, you as leaders, it's how do you handle tech? It's your own tech habits. How do you approach handling that? And like for us, we had our sons talk to 3 leaders before we allowed them to get on social media, and in getting a device, those kind of things. So it's really important that we go first as leaders,
we
right?
practice what we preach.
We practice what we preach, and we go first. Leaders lead. So, and then
because we want as parents, we want to partner with leaders that we can trust. If our kids are looking to them for wisdom about things and technology, that they're not going, it's no big deal, TikTok's great, we really want leaders who understand how it impacts their own life so that they can give thoughtful and prayerful counsel to our students.
So leaders, this is us.
Right.
This is us. we need to make sure that our own personal choices are upright and beyond above reproach, and that we are making choices that are honoring to God, and that we are aware of the dangers of the things that happen online, and that we could maybe even inadvertently be promoting or celebrating.
Yeah.
We have to be very, very careful. I often remind our leaders, James 3:1, right, is a warning that says, let not many of you become teachers, because we will incur a stricter judgment. We are accountable not only for the way we teach biblical content, but for the lives we live in front of our kids. Because we all know they won't remember most of what we say, but they will see how we live and what we do.
And they need to see sobriety.
Yes.
Because their world is full of addiction.
Of indulgence and addiction.
And they need to see a stark contrast in their leaders. You know, that First Peter, be sober.
Yeah.
It's a sobriety movement that we're starting here, people.
This gives me so many questions that we can't do right now. We're going to have to move on. But we may need another episode, because the whole idea that our student ministry has a really strong Instagram presence or a TikTok presence could be seen as something to be celebrated, or it could be seen as something that is really dangerous, because it's putting our kids and students into an environment where they don't need to be.
Right.
We can't do that right now. Let's come back to that. But the idea of modeling, right? Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ.
Right.
And so we need to be examples to our kids in our own practices.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll go through them real quick so we get them in here, and then we'll talk about each one again. Modeling, and then it's team, building your team, and then sacred gatherings, protecting that and preserving that, and fasting and courage. And so we talked about modeling. Team has to do with team has to do with accountability that's built in. You as the leader, you're getting your volunteer teams together. You're the one, drawing them into and then training them, or maybe you have a team that's already established leaders that are training them. You've got to build in some accountability to your team. There's examples that our church uses that has been phenomenal, helpful for us, because we have been youth ministers and youth leaders before. We're not just parents. We've been involved in the church. Many lives. And we're old, but so we've lived a lot of life. But yes, so having both perspectives, next gen ministry and parenting, but the rule of 3 is one thing that we use. So like leaders shouldn't be texting students any minor one-on-one. That's just a simple.
And those are guidelines that we have to set and make very clear to our volunteers.
Yeah,
we do. Important. I think some of us struggle. We have a hard time getting volunteers, so we're often quick to take anyone who's willing, and we set the bar very low.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think this idea of raising the bar, that we want our volunteers to follow our lead,
and I think if your volunteers are young. I mean, I say young, below 35. Tech is part of their life, but probably nobody asks them, what is your screen time like? So even building a team that is talking about these things. We provide a survey that as a leader you can give to your volunteers. So you're not just, telling them, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't do this, but like drawing out of them, what is your tech use like? That's really helpful information if you're a leader.
And it's important.
All leaders are influencers, right? And so we need to lead our volunteers in a way that we're building into them the right message that we want them to pass down into our kids and students.
And it's important to ask tough questions like in these surveys, or even directly if you're interviewing and meeting with leaders, potential volunteer leaders that are going to work with your kids that you're the shepherd over. Have you struggled with pornography? When's the last time you deal with that stuff up front? And, it's not to push someone away from leadership, but it's like, hey, maybe it's a time where you're just courting leadership and you're working on this struggle. Everybody deals with various kinds of struggles, and we've all fallen short of the glory of God.
Yes.
Understood. But it's helping you in a good, healthy, biblical way vet out your leadership. So that's team. And
so Sarah, you talk about sacred gatherings.
Yes.
Keeping your gatherings sacred, really.
We had a wonderful model in in a church camp that our church helped us start, that was phone free from the beginning, which was kind of revolutionary 10 years ago. And so we had that model, and we could see how 5-6 days of hundreds of kids being off technology did something to their brains and their spirits. Yeah. So we had that already established of like, okay, that's something that needs to be, pulled out. And this is a model we can use. Our youth pastor also felt like the Lord led him to take phones out of our student ministry services every week.
Our weekly services.
And that was...
I love that.
That is unpopular sometimes.
It is unpopular.
Here's the thing. I love what Shelley Melia just talked about this morning about how many hours the church has compared to their screen time. It's a ratio of 17 to 1.
17 hours of screen time for every 1 hour of ministry. If they attend 3 hours a week at your church.
Yes.
So it's probably more than that for most.
So if we only get them for a limited amount of time, and we understand how distracted our kids are, and also that we want our kids to feel like they belong.
Yes.
And so if they're coming in as a new visitor or a shy kid and everybody's on screens, it just automatically goes against what we're trying to accomplish spiritually. Yeah. So can we set these things apart and show our kids this is what real life looks like?
And I think that's so key, Sarah, that real life, the whole real aspect is something that is missing for this generation of kids and students. So we know they're the most connected generation to the world and to knowledge of all time in history, but they're the loneliest and most isolated generation in real life relationships.
Right.
Ministry has to be about real connections with real people, because we need to have real influence on real kids who have real issues to connect them to the real solution of a relationship with the real God.
Yep.
And so that has to be a relationship.
Yeah.
Discipleship happens in relationship.
We do have we do have digital toolkit does provide some how-tos. Like, here are the things we learned when we pulled phones out and things that we had to retool regularly, because it is a different way of thinking about things. And so we want to be able to at least get you started on, here are some problems we had to solve in case you run into the same thing.
So, but leaders, there's a challenge here for you or for us. I'll include myself in that. And that is, some of us are trying to take steps to figure out how do we use or leverage technology to keep our ministries relevant.
Yeah.
Sure.
And at the same time, how do we there's more value in distancing ourselves from that. So even that issue is one we have to decide as leaders, press into our teams, and then have it influence our gatherings. But the challenge would be, how would your meeting times look different if phones were not present?
Right. Yeah.
If you just said, our culture, they go in the basket or they stay in your pocket, whatever it is, there's no devices out when we're together, because we prioritize human face-to-face interactions.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not to say that we in our services don't use media. We have music. We have all this technology, and we have a Instagram page for our youth group, all that stuff. But we don't make it the only way that people can get information. When you do that, you isolate people that the parents don't want them to have a device or social media yet. And you short circuit your opportunity for that ministry and for that sacred gathering to be effective.
Allowed our kids to be really creative, because they started making their own announcements.
Yes.
They started doing the announcements.
Well, once you start to do this, they discover that there's freedom in it, and that they actually enjoy real in-person interaction.
And they actually engage with the message.
With the content.
It was completely 100% 180 turn, of like, we provide Bibles if they don't have a Bible with them, so you're not looking at a screen.
Right, because sometimes we're like, you can open your Bible on your phone, and we're saying you
get notifications,
we need to get that
and
break
do all the
from
things.
The screen.
Yes.
Just even the break from the screen and a touch screen, it actually is healthier for your brain. So there's brain science behind that. But so sacred
especially for
gatherings.
those developing brains, right?
Yes.
Because they say, especially the male brain doesn't develop until after you're 25 or something.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for mine to kick in. Not
like
quite
54.
there. But yeah, just breaking that screen connection.
Just giving them a break.
Yeah.
Giving them a break from what the noise of the world that they're used to being around so much, to actually get into the sacred gatherings, but also to have those sacred experiences, those experiences with God, with others, and in the Word, and then because the Bible is an ancient book. Yeah. It doesn't have a bunch of dopamine jumping off the page unless you got a video Bible that you create. But like,
although we did listen to Preston Perry share last night, and he was talking about reading a section in Acts, and he was just like, "Whoa, that thing that Paul and they did, Peter did." He's like, "That was so gangster." I'm like, I never thought of it that way.
Yes.
But it's true, right?
Yeah, it will light you up, but it's longer dopamine. To read through a passage and get it, it's long dopamine. So that's the healthy dopamine versus the quick hits.
So the idea of removing devices from our student ministry, kids ministry, it's not as much an issue in kids ministry. Yeah. I don't know of a lot of kids who are coming in with devices. However,
it's more leaders in kids ministry.
That phone should never be out when we're in a service time
emergency
for our leaders. Okay, but that moment, say it's that 1 hour service time or whatever it is, or midweek or a retreat where it's a few days, or camp where we're not going to have the phones. It takes a little while to get used to that.
Yes.
But there's a lot of value. Now, beyond that, one of the chapter 4 in the book is about fasting. That's more personal and individualized. That also feels like something that for most students would feel traumatic to them.
Well,
so let's talk about this concept of the importance of fasting.
You can simplify it for students, but the main thing to hit home, one of the main things is fasting is removing something that's normally permitted. Yeah. It's not, you're not going, I'm going to fast porn now. Or something. I'm going to fast.
Yeah, we should just stop.
We're not going to
don't start.
We're not going to fast sinful things. We're removing something that we normally do to replace it with something spiritual and better and enriching. Yeah. And so that's getting in the Word, getting in your secret place. Spending more time praying. And so we do that during the camp, but we also started asking our students. We realized, let's get them actually prepared for camp. At least our youth group. We have multiple youth groups coming to a camp. But for our youth group, we're asking them, hey, fast media and things like that the week before camp. Yeah. Because then they come in day one, like ready to go. They're fired up. They're not. You're not waiting as leaders. You're like dragging them in till Wednesday when they finally are detoxed.
And also, if you make your goal as a student leader, whether it's for children or for teenagers, is to help them develop rhythms of spiritual disciplines. Yes. And fasting is not something that the younger generation typically has any experience doing.
And I would even say younger millennials, Xers. Right. This is not something that we typically do.
Right. So if you will put in place like a corporate fast, we're all going to do it together. It's that collective action. This week we're all going to take a break from screens. Yeah. We provide resources. We provide a 7-day sample of the Unplugged devotional, which is, I think you have it, honey, but it's like a 30-day book total. But we provide 7 days. You can do it with your kids or your youth. And if you will plan a couple of times a year, like for us, we have 3 camps or retreats a year. They do a fast before each one. So if a kid goes 7th through 12th grade, they have fasted 21 times.
Wow.
So that sets them up in adulthood to be able to provide a comparison. Yeah. I need this to be part of my life, whether they choose to do it or not.
Normal.
Yes.
We need to normalize
that. We just want them to have that pattern, and you have to lead that. You cannot expect kids to be like, I just feel like I should fast. Yeah. Like as a leader, just be like, hey, we're all going to do it. Find something. It doesn't have to be super prescriptive. Yeah. What are you fasting? But if we will lead in that, the students want to do that together. Yeah. So that is a huge opportunity.
So, okay, I think it's not accidental that the last chapter in the book is about courage.
Right.
So this is something, and even the name, Parents Who Fight, you don't fight without courage.
Right.
And although these are simple things that anyone can do, no phones when we're meeting. Put them away, leave them in the basket. Let's normalize this idea of taking a break where we step away, we replace this with something better. But that's not something that everyone is doing right now, and probably largely because it seems hard. Or too much to ask. So it takes courage.
Well, if you're a next-gen leader already, I mean, pretty much you've already shown that you can choose courage. You are courageous to choose to be a kids minister, a youth pastor, middle school leader, especially, and even young adults leader. So courage doesn't take any qualifications. She shares a quote from Charlie Kirk, but it really is there's no qualifications to choose courage. And courage is contagious. So once you it's that same thing of just like making that first introduction where you're nervous and you're like, okay, me and my pastor we've decided to go ahead with this, and we're gonna ask our youth. We've had phones in our services in our camps, and it's just been annoying and bad. We got to make a change. We got to start somewhere. We're gonna ask them to 1 week. We're gonna try, or 1 month. We're going to go phone free. We're going to try it. We're going to experiment with it. And so, but the Bible just calls us to be courageous. And God hasn't, 2 Timothy 1:7, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and mind. Power, love, and a safe mind. A safe thinking mind. So, and I'll say that again. 2 Timothy 1:7 says God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a safe thinking mind. And so we have, tons of things in the Bible about courage and stories,
courageous,
stories,
not, right?
And many leaders were, in the Old Testament too. You see, running scared, and it's like God saying, "Be courageous," and then but it's, that's the thing, is that it takes that empowerment from the Lord,
right?
The disciples were, Peter was scared and denied the Lord, but then he came back. He's a comeback, he got really courageous, and when they got the power of the Spirit behind them, they were very courageous and bold with their message, and many people were saved, many people were impacted and healed by that. So.
And the fear of man is a snare. And a lot of times, as leaders, it can make you feel like, oh, our parents going to push back? And you know what? They might. They might, because a lot of parents are tethered to their kids through phones. That's something that we can do a better job as parents of, making an advancement in. But if we want to lead our student ministries and our kids ministries in wisdom, we have to have the fear of the Lord, not the fear of man.
That's right.
So if leaders will lead, they'll find people who will come under, like, oh, you're lead, I've got you. And I say there are parents in your student or kids ministry who really care about this issue. And if you will engage some of those parents, you will get support. And that's why we've seen, all of these states remove phones from the school day.
Schools.
And all the teachers are going, they're like, finally, yes, they already knew.
Because
that's kind of like parents.
Because leaders made the decision, right? And now that all these states, and it's like, well, they're all 50 are going to have it eventually, hopefully. We have 39 right now as of this recording. And so, I think as churches, we can lean into those who are, okay, you're doing that already. Can you tell me how you got over this? And just put it before the Lord. God, give me courage to make a shift, because your students need it. Your parents need it. And so they just need somebody to stand up and say, we're going to move in action.
Jesse and Sarah, thank you so much for your time.
You.
Listeners, we will drop in the show notes of the episode links to get to Parents Who Fight, where you can find out more about the Next Gen Tech Reset book and the Unplugged devotional that you should check out and look into. But leaders, as you lead your team, I want to recap some of this for you. It's so important, one, that we have a position, have an opinion, and a godly one about our own involvement with technology, so that we can model for our volunteers and our other leaders, those who we influence, who influence our kids and students, and for our kids and students, that they would look at us and, like Paul, we would be able to say, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Like Gideon, watch me and do what I do. And so we need to model that. We also need to press this value into our teams. They need to know, and we need to train and onboard and equip our leaders to have conviction about this in their own lives as they model this for our students and kids. We need to cultivate sacred times and spaces as a practice, as a habit. Yes, it may be hard initially. You might get some pushback and complaints, but after you do this a few times, it becomes normal, and the kids will rise up and be more connected and less divided and distracted. And so it's key that we establish our meeting times are special, and it's a place where this is just not going to be a part of it. And then we need to talk about the idea of fasting. Build in for ourselves first, right, so that we can model this well, and for our leaders, but pressing into our students and even our kids' spaces, this idea of taking a break intentionally for a period of time so that we can refocus our minds on more positive things, and not just positive things in general, but on godly things, on biblical things, on content that is going to pull us out of the distraction and the negative influence of social media and all the things that kids may find online, and focus them back on the truth of God's word. And so for us to provide them those alternative content pieces that we can say, instead of this, read this or do this, or let's talk about this. And then, of course, it takes courage. Guys, anything that is worth doing is probably going to be hard.
Yep.
And this may not be easy. Although the concepts are simple, it's not necessarily easy to just make this happen. And like Sarah said, we can function in fear, where we are concerned about, will people receive this, or what will they think, or they won't like us. Guys, at the end of the day, the juice is worth the squeeze.
That's right.
This is absolutely,
good.
the ROI is unquestionable.
Yes.
If we can break out of this, of the chains of our phones, it will benefit your ministry and the kids and students that you're leading in so many ways. And those parents will ultimately rise up and call you blessed for helping teach their kids how to refocus on the Lord.
Amen.
Jesse and Sarah, thank you again for being
you.
here.
Thank
So
you
good
so
to call you
much.
friends, and I'm so
Yes,
glad you're here at the
sir.
Etch Conference.
Oh, we love
Leaders,
it.
again, I want to invite you back. So thanks for listening to the Etch podcast, but every October we gather together in Nashville, and we have great friends like Sarah and Jesse who are here that you can interact with. So we'd invite you to check out Etch for next year, and details are available now. Registration is open at etchconference.com. That's etchconference.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back again soon for another episode of the Etch Next Gen Ministry Podcast. This episode of the Etch Next Gen Ministry Podcast was brought to you by our amazing team. Executive producer, Angie Elkins. Producer, Nikki Ogden. Edited by Colin Cruz. And recorded in the Lifeway Podcast Studio in Brentwood, Tennessee. With sound engineer, Donnie Gordon. Artwork by Cameron Wilson. And I'm your host, Chuck Peters. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Etch.